Things that didn't exist before Generation X. Some of them are pretty surprising. Stay tuned to find out what they are. Hi, I'm Miss Gen Exodus. Welcome to my channel, and this is the place where I talk about all things Gen X, or basically whatever I feel like talking about. Welcome. 10 things in no particular order that didn't exist before Generation X. Number 1, this one's obvious, video games. The first video game console was released in 1972, and it came with exactly one game preloaded. You could not buy additional games for it. The game console sold for about $750 in 2024 money. It wasn't until 1977 that we started to see more game consoles come onto the market. We had the Coleco, we had the Nintendo, and we had the Atari. Interesting, only one of those is still popular today, right? Anyhow, video games were not a thing before Generation X. They were largely thought of as children's toys back in the day and figured to be a complete waste of time. Generation X pioneered content on demand. Prior to the invention of the VCR, you had to wait until your favorite programming came on, and you had to watch it while it was on. There was no way to go back and rewatch it. In fact, some of the shows from the early days of television are completely lost to history because no one recorded it. They merely broadcasted it, but there was no recordings of the shows. It's crazy, right? Nowadays, you can watch whatever, whenever. I kind of like it the way it is now. Much more convenient. Seatbelts. Seatbelts became mandatory for the front seats of American automobiles in 1968. There was still not standard equipment for the back seat, though. That wasn't until 1977. Even though the cars from 1977 forward had seatbelts pre-installed from the factory, you didn't have to use them if you didn't want to. It didn't become a law until 1985 when the click it or ticket laws occurred. So yeah, we spent an awful lot of our childhood bouncing around in the back seat of cars without a seatbelt, or in the back of a pickup truck. Daycare centers. Daycare centers did not exist for Generation X. It was assumed, up until that point, that the mother or some other family member would be caring for the children while the father was at work. But they didn't take into account the fact that a lot of women who were mothers were in the workforce. The baby boomer generation was kind of like the epitome of women getting into the workforce and women going for workplace equality with men. That's like second wave or third wave feminism. So women trying to get equality in the workplace. What they didn't take into account is you need somebody to watch the kids. For Generation X, that was your firstborn. I was the firstborn. So we went home to an empty house and had to care for our younger siblings. Keep the door locked, keep the curtains drawn, and only answer the phone if you hear the phone code. We would wear a key around our neck, and that's how we did our weeks without daycare. Aerobics didn't exist prior to the 1980s. The word was made up in order to sell books about fitness, but it wasn't until 1982 when Jane Fonda released her aerobics workout video that it became part of the nomenclature of our entire culture. So, yay! You put on your leotards and your leg warmers and you got out there and you did aerobics. Parenting. No, I'm not saying that parenting didn't exist prior to Generation X. Parenting has gone on. The word parenting did not exist. Think millennials and adulting. The word adulting never existed before millennials. The word parenting never existed before Generation X. The word itself was first noted in 1959 when there was an expansion in child psychology about the middle of the 20th century. You would have Dr. Spock, and people were starting to pick up books about how to best parent your child. It wasn't until the 1980s that Oprah Winfrey introduced her parenting segment. So now baby boomers had something to call their job of raising their children. Unlimited long-distance calling. The millennials might remember that you had to wait until after 9 p.m. or on the weekends in order to save your minutes to make phone calls. Gen X had something similar where we would not be able to call outside of our neighborhood without paying a large sum of money. Phone numbers were only 7 digits. If you had to dial 10 digits, you knew it was going to cost you, and you better keep that phone call short. So if you had a long-distance relationship back in the 1980s, you were probably writing letters to your boyfriend or girlfriend who lived out of town. Chicken nuggets. That's right. You think they've been around forever? No. McDonald's introduced the chicken nugget in 1983. I worked for McDonald's in the mid-1980s. I was hired in 1986. And I do remember watching a training video about the chicken McNuggets, and they were made with puppets. I mean, it was very Muppet, Jim Henson-like training video. And I just have to think now, so many grown adults are working at these fast food restaurants. That kind of video, I think, is pretty insulting to adult people. Anyway, chicken McNuggets. Who knew? They're new. Prozac. Prozac was first introduced to the public in 1986. I have a write-up here on it. According to Wikipedia, Prozac is frequently used to treat major depressive disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, bulimia nervosa, panic disorder, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, trichotillomania, cataplexy, obesity, alcohol dependence, binge eating disorder, and trichotillomania. I don't know why that's in there twice. Sorry. It's basically the Tylenol of the mental health world. Prozac didn't exist before Gen X. The last one. I'm not political. I'm just bringing it up because, well, it's kind of in the news right now, and I'm hoping that I can get some traction off of it, the YouTube algorithm. Anyway, Roe v. Wade. I have been able to spend my entire reproductive life with Roe v. Wade protections. Not that I ever needed to use it. It was there. Anyway, if you're still here watching and the Roe v. Wade thing didn't cause you to click away, thank you so much. Let me know in the comments below if I missed anything. Can you think of a common thing that's surprisingly recently developed? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.